Oh, that tastes great. Hi, welcome to Cork in the North episode, the next one after the last one. The problem we have is I've had a really bad day. We've got to start this again. I can't even do the fucking intro. Oh, you work in TV, Johnny Big Bollocks over here. Ready?
I booked you for the fucking TV one. It's not my fault that it didn't happen again.
I smashed it. If you look back on YouTube, I got 3 clap breaks from the audience.
3 clap breaks? That's like the 3 people who had a stand ovation at Paddy McDonald's on Friday for
They
you.
were going to the toilet, but that's a different situation.
Stand up, stand up.
Right, okay. Well,
3
welcome.
clap breaks,
Welcome.
fuck. That's amazing.
Who booked her? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cork in the North. Yes, but that was the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cork in the North. I'm Andrew Ryan. I have arrived at the podcast studio. I've had a horrendous day today. My guest this week is Jade Henry. Jade has been in comedy for years, working with the manager of the Empire Comedy Club, which is on every Tuesday down at Botanic Avenue, and also with Moondog Productions that do comedy shows like The Blame Game and all the other shows I didn't research about. So I've had a tough day. I've just come off a flight. Everything's been delayed. Thank you very much for sharing, listening and subscribing. We're going to have a great episode ahead of us. Are you looking forward to being on the podcast? Jade is terrified. Are you looking forward to being on it?
Yeah, terrified, but looking forward to it. I mean, especially because you've had an awful day, so it can only get better, right?
Here's the episode. In a minute. So
I probably should have listened to a podcast before this started.
Have you not actually listened to the podcast?
No.
You've not listened to my podcast? And I've invited you on.
I'm not really like a podcast kind of person.
You're not really a nice person sometimes, Jade.
No, but like between work and husband and kids, like I kind of just like silence in my downtime, not listening to you again.
Well, not listening to me. Not listening to how can you not listen to me again?
Sorry, I will go home and binge them all at some stage.
I'm not going to lie to you, but they're getting better. It's just we don't actually have like a real budget for guests, so we're getting people we know that will say yes to me on just on a friendship basis at the moment, rather than more of a career progression area.
I hear you.
There's an article on you in the Daily Mirror, when your husband, who will remain nameless, was a rugby player and played for Ireland. Was a rugby player. 28 caps.
I don't know.
You don't know. Chris Henry, rugby girlfriend. Let's type this
Why
into
are we
Google.
looking this up?
Because we've been recording for 5 minutes and this is all the podcast.
You told me there was going to be a clear start.
Here we go. Ulster Rugby's Chris Henry engaged to sweetheart Jade. Must be a different Jade.
I was a sweetheart back
were you? Oh my God. I love Googling you and your husband, because there's one in the Daily Mirror that I think is really funny. Oh, there it is. Evoke, which is an entertainment news. You were in that.
Oh, wow.
Irish rugby star Chris Henry expecting first child with wife. When did that happen?
It wasn't even about me. It was about Willa.
When did that happen? Well, yeah, because it's all...
When did that happen?
But how do you feel when you put stuff on Instagram and newspaper articles?
Well, I'm now private.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Because of that?
Well, no, I didn't actually know about that, but whenever I went private.
So basically somebody's following you on your Instagram and linking your stories to you.
You're acting like I'm this like some celebrity. Like I'm really not. They're obviously just looking for random bits of information.
I know this, but I think it's hilarious because I know you. And I'm like, why is she in entertainment tonight? I'm like, she's just...
So am I your biggest star yet? Because I'm in what, Evoke?
I don't even know what Evoke is. It's just
biggest star on Andrew Ryan, Cork in the North. Cork in the North.
And then Chris does in it. I just think it's really funny.
Well, to be fair, articles about Chris, fair enough. But me, yeah, it's a bit...
You don't like it though, do you?
No. What does it say anything that like I don't already know?
It must be weird sitting at home that there's people somewhere else writing stuff about your...
I think there's one article
to you it's like your boring normal life kind of thing, like, you know, like you're just normal, like, oh my God, Jade Henry gets her nails done, she is the wife of rugby star, and you're like, fucking hell, I just get me nails done.
To be fair, that is probably from a southern like news article outlet. Like up here they don't care. Up here we don't have celeb culture as such, so down south, yeah, all of like the Leinster rugby players would be seen as celebrities. In the north, like I don't really think Ulster is treated the same way. So in the south, you know, you could go to a boojum and get papped, whereas up here, like Chris would get stopped and talked to about rugby by like a 6-year-old man, but it's not as if there's much news that would be going out about him. I don't think.
Well, I know. Yeah,
I don't
I've
follow
had
that.
nights out with Chris, and it's good fun. He knows how to have a good time.
I would usually try and pretend that he's not him. Someone would be like, "Hi, are you Chris Henry?" I'd be like, "No, I get that all the time." Because like he couldn't let on that it was him whenever he gets that drunk. So he's like, "No, honestly, I just really look like him." And people are like, "Oh, you do."
Yeah,
and then they move on.
You've 2 kids. Do you ever? No, I'm not saying do you not regret having kids, but do you ever? No, I'm not. No, I'm trying to. All right. First of all, we've got to start this properly, right? I'm having a really bad day today, right?
Yeah, I know. Stop talking about me when I know all you want to do is talk about yourself.
I'm just having a really bad day today.
Tell us about your day, Andrew.
I'm not going to go into it in too much detail.
No, but you are.
But I'm late for the podcast. I literally am wearing the same clothes I wore at last week's podcast. I've come back from Manchester. And everything went wrong in the airport. Everything. People going through. I'm pretty certain we have airport security nailed down as a species now. That we should know how to do airport security.
Well, it's been 2 years since people have been travelling regularly, so maybe people have just forgot.
No, I genuinely.
Is it the storm?
No, it's basically take your belt off. Your stuff has to be 100 millilitres and it has to be in a clear bag. There are people out there that still can't do that. And one guy was like, "Oh, why do I have to take my belt off?" And in my head, I'm like, "Because of the fucking terrorists, man. We're doing this because of the fucking terrorists."
I did not hear about that plane that got hijacked.
In 2001, this is because of the terrorists. It's been going on for 20 odd years.
So this was all slowing you up?
And it was slowing me up, and it's pissing me off, and I'm very agitated about it. And I'll be honest with you, I think I should have postponed the podcast.
I still don't know how a guy taking a belt off in security in Manchester made you late here. Sure, the plane
was delayed as well.
Because of the man with the belt?
No, the plane was delayed because the plane arrived in, and there was 2 passengers on the plane, and they were waiting for, you have to get help.
Right.
You know the way people come on with wheelchairs and stuff.
Right.
But Manchester Airport didn't have enough staff. So basically there was 2 or 3 people sitting on the plane who needed assistance, and they didn't get assistance for half an hour because there wasn't enough staff at Manchester. So we're now delayed because of the lack of staff at Manchester Airport.
They said all this over the week.
The pilot told us the reason we were delayed is because of the lack of staff at Manchester Airport to come on and take out.
So he was raging.
The pilot was furious. And then I was in a middle seat, and then the plane was full, and then I just got really anxious.
You can pick your seat.
I'm not paying for it.
Yeah, you were just.
I'm not paying EasyJet to pick on a seat when I get one for free.
Did you pay for a bag?
No, it's carrier bag.
I like a wee small one now.
I was only ever there for one day working.
Well, you've been wearing the same clothes since Tuesday. So
okay, Jade. Okay. Oh, let's go on. Your fashion magazine fucking thing that you did with Tatler. Oh, Jade Henry, wife of rugby star.
You had too much time on that airplane. If you're
oh my God, I was just so. And do you know what the worst thing was? I flew from Belfast International Airport, which I now understand why people kill. It's an airport that either needs shutting down, or it needs to be, or we need to buy somebody in to restructure and do a documentary on it.
Why did you go international? Whenever
because it's cheaper.
Oh, okay, right.
And the flight times are better. And I also.
But you can walk to City. That's all you ever go on about.
I know.
I moved to Hollywood because I can walk to City Airport.
And I do walk to City Airport when the price is at the right price for me to get the flight. And I fly a lot.
How much did it cost you in petrol to get the international?
And I had to pay £18 parking overnight. But I arrived at Belfast. Do you go from Belfast City Airport much? International Airport. When you go on holidays and stuff. Would you go from Belfast International? When you used to go on holidays?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes.
So whenever I go to an airport and I see a family with small kids, and you've been to an airport with small kids, I feel really sorry for the parents.
Good.
Because I understand that the shit that they have had to get through to get to that airport this morning, and the worrying about the kids flying on the plane. And I feel really sorry for the parents. And then I just look at the kids and I just get more angry. And I'm like, if he's on my flight, do you ever go to an airport and look at somebody in check-in and you go, but they're on my flight, and they're always on your flight.
I
see kids and I just they're going to be next to me.
I still am that person. I get really angry whenever I
see kids.
Well, not really, but I think if the parents are apologetic, it's okay. It's when you get a kid who just keeps annoying you and annoying, and the parent doesn't even try to do anything about it. I definitely try to stop my kids being annoying.
Yeah.
But you can't help it sometimes. But it's the parents who just have given up entirely. I'm kind of like.
And you can see that you're looking, they've had a long day, they're dead behind the eyes, the kids are wrecking their head. I kind of feel sorry for parents who do that.
And especially even. Because you know that the holiday's not going to be great. A holiday with kids isn't a holiday. So it's the flight home is actually even worse because you've just been away with them for a week. At least when you're at home, they're kind of in childcare and stuff.
Yeah.
If you're going on your flight home, you've just been with them for an
So
entire week.
And that's
So everybody's
24/7.
tension's high. Yeah.
Everyone's tense.
Yeah.
So
It's not.
and not only that, you've been with them for an entire week, and you've got to get a flight with them as well.
Yeah. And then you have to get the flight home, and they probably haven't slept great that way because it's a different environment. And yeah, I just don't really understand the whole holiday. And
Such a good advertisement for not having kids there, Jade. I must admit, because I don't have kids and I don't really plan on having kids, to be honest with you. But Belfast International Airport, like it can be a bit. The security's too long. There's 4 or 5 segments, and they only open 2 when there's like 6 flights. So sometimes you're queuing actually outside the door, not outside the door outside the airport, but just at the top of the escalator. When you go up the escalator,
when you got up, so it was so far queued back that like the escalators going up.
Yeah.
They were starting to like fall down onto the escalator, so it was just actually really dangerous because as soon as you got to the top, you couldn't get off. Because the queue was right back to the top of the escalator, so loads of people were like coming on the escalator, going to the top, and then literally getting pushed back down the escalator again. So yeah, it's not very managed.
Surely, but surely, do you think that's a staffing issue or a management issue? I'm going way too deep into this.
I know, I was about to be like, it's definitely not my remit.
Like I genuinely, I'm at this point in my life now where I'm starting to say stuff. And I'm starting to send emails about complaints. I'm getting to the point now where it's like I might email Manchester Airport about the lack of signage for the new security in Terminal 1.
That's a turning point thing.
And there's something going on here. But when I arrived in Belfast International, I went to get my car, and obviously you pay for like one night or whatever it is, and we were delayed an hour. So I'm thinking, they're going to charge me an extra £5 now, but you get a bit of grace time when you book a car. Woman in front of me was talking to the man through the speaker, and she'd overstayed by 4 days, and she was arguing about you, man. I'm like, pay for your fucking 4 days. And she was from Dublin as well. She had a D-Red, so she'd come up for the cheap flight. Stingy bitch. Right?
4 days? I want to know what she was up to.
And she was like, she was like, no, I've booked it to check out on the 22nd, because today's Tuesday the 22nd. And the guy was like, no, you've actually booked to check out on the 18th. You've stayed an extra 4 days. And she was like, no, I'm pretty sure it was the 13th to the 22nd. And then the guy was like, no, on your booking form, it's 13th to the 18th. She went, no, it's the 22nd. So then I had my window, I'm here, I'm actually in neutral, and I'm revving the fucking car. And I'm like this, I've got to go this. Anyway, she takes out her phone and she looks at it, and then 2 seconds later, you just see the credit card coming out of the window, and it just does a tap, and she paid for it.
But to be fair, she might have been right. Maybe they got it wrong.
She obviously.
Yeah, but if you're telling me that the airport's that incompetent about other stuff, they might have actually got her dates wrong.
No, but she looked at her booking form, and then she realised that she made the mistake, you see, and then she paid for it.
I wanted to know what she was up to for another 4 days.
Well, I don't know. She just probably chanced her arm, or she just got her own dates wrong. But this is the thing: there's certain people out there that shouldn't be alive. Like they don't know how to function.
We can't all be as perfect as you.
I'm not perfect. I have many flaws that most people will never see, but I have many flaws. So Jade, obviously, thanks very much for coming on to the podcast. We'll start now. Thanks
I was waiting for the natural start. Going.
Jade, I've known you for many, many years. We have worked together, but you are in charge of the comedy at... Is the Empire in Belfast the longest running comedy club in Northern Ireland?
Yeah, I think there was maybe comedy nights at Queen's. I don't think the comedy club at Queen's. I mean, I could be wrong. They probably started up around about the same time, but yeah, it's been set up in 1992 on my first birthday.
Wow.
My dad's...
Your dad did something to get out of the house on a Tuesday. Screaming 100%. Child at home.
It was his 30th birthday. So yeah, it's 30 years old this year. And yeah, no, it was like... set up with Patrick Hilty, so he had obviously started doing comedy, and there was no scene here, so they needed somewhere for him to be able to do it every Tuesday. And Dad started flying acts over from all over, basically, and that was it. It was quite not a strange time, but not a natural time to start, because it was 1992 and the ceasefire wasn't until 94. Jeez. So yeah, it was a time where they weren't really sure if people were going to come out, and I think the opening night there was about 400 people queued around the corner, so they realised there was a real thirst to have people talking about what was happening, even in the city's darkest times. So and 30 years later, we're still there. It took a pandemic to close us down. Yeah. So,
do you remember going there for the first time as a customer? Like to go and watch comedy?
I've never been as a customer.
Don't say like, oh yeah, I was drinking there when I was 12. You
no,
know
I
what
wasn't.
I mean?
But I started doing the door whenever I was about 16.
Right.
But so I was too young to actually go in. So I would
So
have
did you see, like, who did you see there? Like,
Oh, like,
McIntyre's, the
yeah,
whole lot?
everyone coming through. Like, honestly, it's one of those things. So my dad set it up, and you know, like when you're younger, you don't really appreciate what your parents do. So I was at the door, kind of earning my pocket money, and yeah, Michael McIntyre, whenever he was on, actually came up to the door, and I tried to charge him. I didn't realise that he was on that night.
Did he come up and be like, hello, hello, hello?
Yeah, I probably should have guessed, but
Spoons,
I just
spoons.
I didn't really have much of an interest, to be honest. Like I said, I was just doing it to earn
16
my
years of age.
money so I could go out shopping at the weekend or whatever. And always did bits and pieces for Dad. And then I went to university in Glasgow, and it was only there whenever I got into comedy. So I started going to the stand and started working for the International Comedy Festival in Glasgow.
Yeah.
And started being like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. Started really appreciating what my dad did. So then whenever I came back, then I was obviously old enough to go on Tuesday. So probably would have been around then. I went to uni in 2010. So, and then, yeah, whenever I graduated 2014, I came home, my dad had to have surgery. So he was like, do you mind looking after the club for a couple of weeks? Because that's what I would have done in Glasgow. I had a venue that I looked after as part of the festival. And I was like, yeah, of course. And then he recovered, and he was like, do you want to just keep doing what you're doing? Because, he was just like, he really enjoys coming down on Tuesday and then not having like the pressure of obviously having to be there every Tuesday. And I brought the club onto social media and kind of just brought it into the 21st century a bit. So I absolutely loved what I was doing. And then I started working with Dad full time because he works in TV. So he is a producer. He used to be head of comedy in BBC Northern Ireland, and now runs his own production company. So
Make the Blame Game. The Blame Game is your show.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on the Blame Game.
You have been on the
haven't been on a second time. So
we'll see if I get another podcast running.
Just to let you know, I'm available if you need me on the Blame Game for a second time.
Well, of course. That's it. Well, it's like trying to book acts, and we've only got one slot and we've got about however many episodes.
But you don't need to pay for a hotel for me or flights. I'm up the road.
I hear it's not my decision. It's not.
What a joke.
I can put people forward for it as much as I want.
I'm not bitter towards this at all. I just don't think the show is very relevant.
It's very relevant.
It's very relevant. It's
probably
a great show. BBC Northern Ireland. Every time it's on, it's on.
If there's ever a place that needs a satire comedy panel show, it's here.
So how do you find your life like? Because I'm obviously in the comedy industry, and I work with comedians and I perform. You work with comedians and you don't perform.
No.
So what do you think of? Do you have like an overall general view of what comedians are like? You know, they were like, rugby players, they're always like really intense and then they blow out, and then comedians, they're always depressed or happy.
Yeah, they're
or
not
sad.
funny.
Like what do you think?
Not
What's your overall?
What is it like? Really put them all in the one box. But yeah, I don't really think that offstage comedians are the funniest people.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, but usually because they're very intelligent, and not that they don't go together, but
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying not all. I'm saying like the best ones are.
Oh, really?
Probably the ones that appear in the Blame Game all the time. I'm joking. So very smart, always thinking and probably always preparing. And I don't think people who don't work in comedy get that. So it's kind of almost as if like they see a comedian and they expect them to just be funny whenever it is. Like you would get that obviously a lot more than me, but you would think that backstage at a comedy gig is absolutely hilarious, but it's not. So I think that is probably the main thing that people don't really appreciate, and how much work and effort it takes to become a great comedian. I think people see their friends and their pals who are like quite funny, and everybody thinks that they can do it. And especially in Northern Ireland, I think that's also why we have a lot of like hecklers in the audience, because they see someone on stage and they think they're better than them when they don't realise how much work and effort has gone into refining that set.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your ass now by saying how great you are, but I do think that it takes a lot of effort to get to a place where you can perform on stage, especially one like the Empire Last Back, and do well.
Yeah, the Empire has a bit of a notorious reputation. And were you aware of all that? From the acts coming coming up from England and Scotland and
from
Dublin or Cork?
I do think a lot of it comes back from the 90s, to be honest. I do think we are a safer place now. I mean, as in safer space within our audience aren't as bad for kind of shouting out and stuff. And a lot of it just comes down to be honest, comedians, I feel, blaming audiences rather than their jokes. You can be a great comedian and you still need to tailor your set to where you're going. So there's no point in coming over to Belfast and talking about the megabus other than on the tube. Like, we don't really care. Whereas if you have...
I know acts that have done that.
I know, I don't mean it in a bad way, but like you kind of need to do a wee bit of homework just to see that we don't have a waitress. Like, don't be making jokes about it.
Is there no waitress in Belfast?
No, I don't think so. No,
It's not. Let's Google it.
We don't have waitress in Northern Ireland.
There's no Waitrose in Northern Ireland?
No.
Wow, I didn't know that. I wouldn't shop there anyway. I'm an Aldi Lidl kind of guy.
But so I think that's where a lot of it goes wrong, where they maybe do really great in London and then they come over here. And the Empire audience have really high expectations, because when you look at everyone who's ever performed with us, you know, that it's half to do with the nerves of knowing who else has performed on that stage, and it's half knowing that the audience have that really high expectation. I don't like to advertise who's on, because I don't feel like you need to be famous to be funny. I just know that who I'm booking are going to rock the show. And I like that customers come knowing that. Like, they're coming because they know they're going to have a really good time. And there's just nothing more special, I feel, than a comedy night where you're just literally going down, no matter what week you've had, what day you've had, how you're feeling, you're just going down to laugh. Yeah. Like, there's just nothing better.
The Tuesday night at the Empire, every Tuesday, it's such a well-known gig. Like, I could be talking to people who are... Actually, at the weekend, I was up in Castle Rock, up in the North Coast.
Yeah.
And someone said to me, like, "Oh, are you busy?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." I said, "I've got a few shows coming up in Belfast and down the Empire." And the man was like, "Oh, that's on every week, isn't it?" He said, "I've never been, but I know about it."
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's
and
so
a lot
well-known.
of people, I feel like, grew up with it. So because it's 30 years this year, you know, lots of people will be like, "Oh, I used to go every Tuesday when I was a student," and now it's like their children are going. So if you went to Queen's or Jordanstown and you came from like Derry or somewhere in Europe, then now your kids are in university and they're saying like, you should go every Tuesday to this place. And it's that kind of, you're going and you're seeing people and you're supporting comedians before they really take off. So you would have seen, you know, John Bishop, Kevin Bridges, Michael McIntyre, Lee Mack. I think Lee Evans is maybe like the first lineup. Catherine Tate, like, they've all started there. And even since, that's all my dad's kind of era, but since I have even started taking over, you know, Joel Dommett's now on ITV, primetime name. He was doing the club regularly just a few years ago, you know. So they all start somewhere.
I did it with him.
Yeah,
I did it with him. Yeah. It's who
Ian Sterling, Boyd Griffiths, yeah. There's
Joe Lycett,
yeah. Sean Walsh,
Catherine Ryan.
I actually don't think she has done it, but unless she did it whenever my dad was there. I looked after her show in Glasgow though, got lost with her. My one job was to get Catherine Ryan to, from my place was called like, what's it called? Well, it'll come to me anyway. So the gig that I ran, she then had to get to the Westin or something like that, this other gig, and basically got her in the taxi and had to get to this other gig by a certain time, and the taxi driver just left us off in the middle of nowhere. And I didn't really know Glasgow that well, because it was like my first year, and got out of the taxi and phoned the guy at the next gig and was like, I don't know where we are, but the taxi driver's basically just left us off because he got a better like fare, and but we must be somewhere nearby. And like, I was like, oh, it just says like the Barrowlands. And he was like, Jade, you cannot be stood in the middle of the Barrowlands in Glasgow with Catherine Ryan. Like, it's not, I don't think it's known as like a very good area for two girls to be walking about late at night. So it's just total panic. And like, he had to like drive stood away, get us, bring us over to the next gig. So that was the only time that I ever met Catherine Ryan. She was like, don't worry about it, it's grand. Like, honestly, 2 weeks ago in London, I got mugged. And I was like, okay, this is really great news. Yeah. At least you've already been through it. So that's how I met her. But no, the rest, Jimmy Carr's done the Empire. I feel like I probably shouldn't be saying names because I'll just leave everybody out. Basically,
I know. Yeah, but we in terms of the general impact that the club has had on comics and the comics that have come over and played, and it just shows you that like everybody who has gone on to TV massive success and big tours, you know.
They would usually
go to places like the Empire to perform.
Well, yeah, I feel like they would have some sort of respect for it, and especially lots of, you know, the local ones too. It's just great to have different places for them to try out their material, and I think there's a sense with the Empire Laughs Back that you haven't really earned your comedy stripes, I feel, until you've done it. So it's kind of not, it wouldn't be where you first set out to do. I wouldn't want anyone to kind of do their first set there because I wouldn't want to put them off doing it, because they mightn't do as well. But it is that place where once you've done it and you've done a really good set, I feel like you kind of celebrate.
It's one of those gigs where you go, if you do well at the Empire, you can do well.
And I like that. Like, it's nothing to do with me, you know. It's just because who else has done well on that stage. But it is a really nice feeling to see people just really respect it and really, really enjoy it.
The first time I did it was terrifying. I remember the shirt and the jeans and everything I wore. I flew over. You weren't there. Your dad was there. and I was doing the opening.
I'm a lot younger than you, Ryan. Ryan, Andrew Ryan.
Yeah, people call me Ryan a lot. You know that.
I think I was just staring at your poster and I just keep seeing Ryan in the back of my head.
People call me like Ryan a lot.
You've got two first names. It's just
I
weird.
know, it's strange. And do you know what, the amount of people that go like, how are you spelling Ryan? I'm like, how do you think I'm spelling it?
Why is there another
It's
way?
R-Y-A-N. Like,
Is there any other way of spelling Ryan?
not that I know of. They're probably like, no, it's like Ryan, how are you spelling it? R-Y-A-N. Oh, the normal way. But how the fuck were you going to spell it? So anyway, I did the Empire for the first time, and I flew in. I was living in Manchester, UK at that time, and I flew in on a Tuesday. And you get
Do you know when it was? Like,
it was 2013, I think. And I just heard like the Belfast Stamp. You'd hear stories of certain comedians being brought on by the host if they'd pissed each other off backstage. You know, the next comedian, last time he was here, his father was in uniform, like British Army uniform, and you're just like, you'd hear all these stories from the 90s. And sometimes you don't know whether they're all true or not. But I remember I turned up, and Jake was the MC, and I went out, and for 25 minutes, I started really well. And then it slowly got worse. And I got to the point where I looked at my watch and I'd done 20...
Those are the bits I love the most.
I'd done about 22 minutes. Now, I was getting laughs, but I was just getting like, oh, yeah, you know, like the...
Appreciate that.
I see what he did. Yes, no, It wasn't belly. So
You're lucky you got that. See, Belfast, like, we don't usually give that. It's kind of like, even if you really make us laugh, it's like, haha, okay, next.
Yeah.
Like, there's usually no kind of continuation.
Yeah, you have to smash it.
You have to really work
Basically,
at it.
you have to really work. Anyway, I finished the gig and I came off and I was like, oh my God, that was a C. That was a C minus. Like, I passed, but it wasn't. Like, you wouldn't go home going, oh my God, that guy that was on first was amazing. It was like, yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
But I stood at the bar and the break was on and I wanted to watch the closing act. I think it was somebody from Dublin. And I'd never been there before, so I said, I'll get a pint. And I stood at the bar and I had my jacket on over my shirt. So I went out to get a pint to bring it back in. And this guy came up to me from Belfast and he just looked at me and he went, you're just on. And I went, I was, yeah. And he looked at me and went, aye, just about. And he just walked off. And I was like, just about what? Like, I just about did well. I was just about going to get fucking punched. Like, just about. He just went, just about. And he walked off and I was like, what the hell was that review? Like, I was walking in the back with a pint of Guinness.
I think that's quite a good review.
Is it?
Yeah.
But the way he said it, he just went, just about fucking what, man?
Well, I mean, do you have any, like, do people come up and say anything to you now?
Yeah, the bouncers are great crack in the Empire.
I love
the bouncers in Empire are after, the lads are great crack.
Sometimes whenever I'm like, oh, I thought I'd go and dine, you know, like after a really long day, I'm like, as soon as I see those three lads,
the three lads are hell. I walk in and they slag you, they have a bit of crack with you. And you know, like, they're on your side, and then afterwards you just chat to them. And I turn up, and one of the lads, the black-haired lad, I can't think of. I know he listens to the podcast, but he always slags me off because he said, like, you don't live in Hollywood, you know, you don't live out in Hollywood. And I'm like, well, I'm just before it. And he's like, yeah, well, you keep telling people you're from Hollywood. I'm like, well, I am just going to keep telling people that. I'm just going to keep telling people that. But the thing about it is, like, when I do the Empire, it's one of those gigs that I used to have a regular gig in England. And
that's right.
The Disney, and that was once a month. Now I do the Empire, you know, say once a month now. I love having a regular show.
Yeah. Because
some of the audience were like, oh, Andrew's back on or Colin Murphy's back on. I think having a regular host at the Empire, a rotating system of hosts, is, I'd say, one of the reasons why you're very successful.
Yeah. Because
it's consistent. And a hosting, you know, you have to have a good host. You know, I'm not trying to say I'm the best host, but I'm just saying you have to have a decent host. You know?
It's like a totally different skill set than a set as well. I think it's just, obviously it's been able to talk to the crowd, but I think just managing the whole show is just a different skill set than being able to even close. Even if you're like a really good headline act, it's different when you're MCing, I think. And you, Paddy and Colin are just really, really good at it. And I do see, you know, I'm sure you guys have your own followers who then will come whenever you're on.
I've about 6 people, 6 followers now. You know, we're getting there. Might have 7 next week.
You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is that case of coming down and just being able to. What I like as well from seeing you guys for the regular shows is that you try out so much more material as well, because you obviously know that you're coming back in a couple of weeks' time. So like
it's great for turning over material.
Yeah, like you'll do something and like you're so comfortable now that I'm not saying it didn't work, like all your jokes work, but you will be
No,
like,
they don't always work, Jade.
but that's it. And you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that definitely needs more work. And then I can see you building it up. So I can see you trying it again, but doing it different, and then trying it again, but different. And then finally the joke's nailed. Like,
Yeah.
I like seeing that process.
Yeah.
Do
you ever get acts that come to the Empire that you look at them and you go, I'm worried for you going out? Because you've seen them in the green room and you go, oh no,
Yeah,
they're
all the
anxious.
time.
And like, how do you, because I know you use an agency in England to help you with the bookings and stuff. So they're sending you over people and you're like, what are you
Well,
sending
especially
me?
now, I feel like pre-pandemic, I would have gone to a lot of festivals. I would have been constantly seeing people. So you're booking off a show that you've just seen. But now, even like my favourite comedians, it has been a long time since I've seen them perform because everyone hasn't been performing because there's been a pandemic. So, and especially because of what we just said earlier about how they're not the funniest or, you know, the most upbeat, and you kind of just think like, Christ, how are you going to go out and make a room full of this many people laugh? And then they go out and it just like happens, and you're just like, how... It's an alter ego, like for sure. They just like turn it on. Johnny Camden a couple of weeks ago was like, oh, I haven't gigged in so long. I think it's like a third gig since 2020. And I was like, what? And he was nervous, and then that made me nervous. And I thought, oh my God, you're closing. Like, there's just so much pressure because people have given up their Tuesday night to come down, and I really want to put on like the best show possible.
And also, it's really hard to leave a house. You know, if you've got kids, food,
Well, it
dinner,
is
taxis,
like, and I know
all
that more than anything now. And did I pay for a ticket and go out and come down? I just feel a lot of pressure, obviously, to make sure people have had a really good time. But it was probably one of the best nights I've had. You know, he just went out, and you know, Johnny, like he's just crowd work, and everything went perfectly well for him. Everyone he spoke to, the audience were unbelievable that night, which is a lot of it too. You know, the thing I just love about a comedy night, you know, I love watching comedy on TV and tour shows and stuff, but I just think there's a real shared experience about a night in a comedy club where it is one night only. You know, you're only going to get like that family from Warren Point with that couple who are on the first date with, you know, this friendship group who are on a reunion. And it's all of those different combinations that come together to make it absolutely hilarious. So, everyone he spoke to that night, it was just comedy gold back, and he was able to, obviously, you know, the best comedians know exactly how to respond as well. And so it's just every night I have been very nervous going down, thinking, haven't seen this person in ages, how's it going to go? And every night I'm coming away going like, oh, it's like unbelievable, like just so good. And I just keep thinking it's not going to be topped, and then it is. Yeah. And I think I just do obviously get such a buzz off comedy. I really, really enjoy it. And I think anyone who hasn't been to a stand-up comedy night should definitely go. I think there is comedy on TV, and you maybe think that it's like that, but you know more than anyone, it's just so different, and it's so authentic when you're down there. And something about the shared, I know I'm totally rambling now about comedy, but
no, it's okay.
You've got me started.
You're filling the podcast. That's the most important thing.
But it's like the shared experience of what is.
The shared experience of the Empire. You always have great shows when I'm not there.
Oh, I know. It's on. I don't know why I saw Vicky.
Like, I swear to God, you're
and
like, oh my God, Andrew last week was
last night.
Oh, it was so good.
But it's that, like, comedians are genius, you know, and they have a real power of bringing people together. So especially in Northern Ireland, you've got people from obviously all different backgrounds, all different walks of life, and to be able to like laugh at the same joke is finding common ground. Yeah. So there is something very nice and special in watching, and it's really hard to hate someone that you're laughing with. Yeah. So I do think comedy holds power in situations like that. You
said there about the you know, when you go to a show, you have the couple on the first date, you have friends reunion, and you know, a family from Warren Point or whatever. Sometimes all that stuff can backfire, because I was doing a gig in England many years ago. I was hosting, and there was a couple on the front row, and you know, if you're hosting, you'll talk, you might talk to the audience, and I just said to them, you know, oh, what's your name? And he was very quiet, and he didn't really want to engage, and there was little eye contact, and I was like, all right, you're all right, man, are you okay? Do you ever speak to an Irish guy before? You know, I'm trying to like get something out of him. Nothing. His girlfriend was just a bit like, oh hi, you know, blah blah blah. Because comedy clubs, if you do bookings at a weekend, what they do is they will put couples at the front. Right. And big groups at the back, for noise and stuff like that. At the back of that gig, there was a hen party, and I do the first section of the show. I'm talking to this guy, I'm getting nothing off him. I go to the next people, I'm getting a few laughs here and there. I'm
anxious even thinking about this story.
And then I go to the green room, and I'm sitting in the green room. First act is on, knock on the door at the break. Andrew's a security guy, and I'm like, have I said something? Have I done something have I caused a fight? But apparently what's happened is the guy that was sitting at the front row that I was talking to, that did not want to talk to me, was there with his girlfriend. But that guy was married, and his wife's best friend was at the back of the room on a hen party and recognised the guy.
You're joking.
He had gone away for a weekend with his new girlfriend, and his wife's friend was on a hen, so obviously she figured out, oh my God, he's married to... And then in the break, confrontation. And then I come back out and there's like 2 empty seats and everyone in the audience is talking about it. I didn't see any of it because I was gone. I walked
only you
out.
had to work it out on stage.
And I just literally, they all just left. Like, I don't know to this day what happened. I walked back out and it was just 2 empty seats. And I just went out and I just went, anything happened in the break? Anyone want to fill me in? And they're all like, fuck it!
See, that wouldn't happen. Like, that's one night only. You can't make that happen again.
I've had guys in the front row gigs come to a gig with a prostitute.
Oh God!
And you're just sitting there, you're going, "How are you? You busy?
Okay.
Like what? Like what do you?
You're
making
the Empire feel really innocent now.
No, the Empire, yeah, but it's just some of it. It was in the Empire, yeah, Jade. Very sorry about that. It was 2 weeks ago, actually, and you said you gave them free tickets. Oh, it's crazy, but like that stuff like that can go really wrong, you know.
Yeah,
like
no,
it really,
but
really,
that's part of it, do you know. And it's funny
that's the beauty
watching
of it as well, I
watching
suppose.
you guys girls grovel on stage trying to like come back from it. There's nothing that makes me laugh more honestly sometimes than watching people who I know are funny die.
Yeah,
and just seeing them
watch
really
them die
struggle.
on stage.
Yeah,
you love it.
Yeah, because I'm just like, this is so funny because you
This is going to be
do great.
This is the tagline for the podcast. Jade Henry, comedy reporter. I love seeing people die. But it's even if it's at your, if they're dying at your gig, how do you feel?
No, like, I mean, as in just like do a joke that clearly doesn't, not the whole set. I'm not going to sit through 20 minutes being like, oh my God, I have the flashlight on, being like, get off. But as in, whenever I know they're doing really well and then they do a joke that just sucks, it's just quite nice to watch you, get down a few pegs.
Like, I did a joke. I wrote this joke when I started in comedy, and it was a phrase I heard someone else say, and I remember I did it a couple of times, and the first time I did the joke, people howled laughing, and I thought, I am a genius. Like, I'm a genius, right? And then the second time I did the joke, people booed me.
Was it a different place?
Yeah, and the third time I did the same joke, nothing. And I only did the joke 3 times, and I've never done it. And
Well, where did you do it the first time? Belfast Empire.
No, I did it. So I did it in Belfast.
And it didn't work.
It didn't work at all. And it's one of those jokes. You know, when you tell a mate in a pub and they look at you and they go, they laugh, but they know they shouldn't be laughing.
Is it like cancel worthy?
No, it's not cancel worthy. I mean, should I tell you?
No. Do you want to? I'm not going to be able to like pretend to laugh.
No, it's not like Jimmy Carr style.
You're just wanting to cancel this podcast before it even starts?
No, do you know what? I'm not going to say it. If you want to know the joke, come to one of my live shows.
Yeah, hold that back.
It's
not the Empire.
I won't say no. I'm not trying to cause
Cork
any
in the North
controversy.
on tour.
Cork in the North on tour. So
no
you're officially
cameras.
cancelled.
Yeah.
Due to Andrew Ryan's comments recently on a podcast with Jade Henry, who likes to see people die.
This chair is really squeaky, by the way.
What do you do when someone dies? At,
really
is it really squeaky? What do you do when someone dies at the Empire? Like, how do you react? Because you have to go into that green room and face that, and they're going to be looking at you going, so can I come back again? And in your head you're like going, I ain't fucking seeing you for a long time.
Yeah, I thankfully haven't really had to deal with it that much recently. Honestly, everybody's been really top of their game.
But you've had shit, Jade. I've worked with them.
No, I know, but I feel like it's been a really long time since I have. Like, we've only opened again in October.
You're answering like a politician here. Have you had many acts where you've gone, they're not coming back? But you don't have to name them. They're not coming back. I'm not having them back.
I mean, I really can't. Like, yes, not.
I have a fucking list of names here that I do not want performing it. Come on.
I probably just can't. They know themselves. You know yourself.
Comics do
you know what?
know.
Say if you don't know yourself and you think that you've done well and you haven't, then you're not a very good comic. You're just there's a difference between confidence and
delusional.
There's
a few people like that around.
Yeah, so. And it is that thing of just because you've done very poorly on the Empire, it doesn't mean that you're, you can have a bad night or you can do bad in the Empire and go on and do great things.
I've had some shocking
I wasn't
gigs at the
there,
Empire.
but I hear Jimmy Carr didn't do well. And I mean, he's clearly gone on and done all right. So it's not the be all and end all. If you have a shit night, I'm sure you've had...
I've had many shit nights.
Yeah.
Jesus, I've had...
So there's not... I can't go backstage and be like, you're terrible and you're never going to do this again. It's like, I actually just say, the sooner we get you back, the better. If they're from here, do you know what I mean? Just...
Oh, but always support your local, and because they need a development stage as well.
Yeah, and if you're not from here and you've done bad, then why? Well, is maybe your material, like I said earlier, wasn't really tailored to our crowd. Just the slightest wee tweaks. Like, the best comedians kind of fly over a wee bit earlier in the day if they're flying in. Spend a bit of time walking about Botanic, do a bit of bits in Belfast, get a bit of material, and then they open with that. I think that is usually the key to winning over the Belfast Empire audience, is because you open with like something you've seen that day, or like John Bishop has a joke about getting into a black taxi and then like a whole family jumping in along with him, and it's things like that we just appreciate it. Everywhere would be the same, not just Belfast, but you appreciate someone giving a bit of an insight into what it's like. Sorry, Cork in the north, like that's all you do is come up here and take the piss out of us. Like
I love it. It's great.
So you're not from here, it works for you, so it's kind of spending a bit of time here and just having something that you can open with to make us be like, okay, we like you, you know where you are, you don't think that you've just woke up in another city that's in, we're just going across the country, and it doesn't, like the same set every single place doesn't work. Like the best nights are whenever you tailor it.
I know what you mean. When it's made about that audience that night in that environment, it works all the time.
Yeah.
Like
even when you didn't live here, you would have always tried to have bits of information about here.
But it also shows that you're interested in the place you're going to as well. Like that you're putting a bit of effort in. Like there's people go up there and just do it, the script, and they could be doing it in any city that night. Yeah,
exactly. Like Tom Allen used to always gig with us, and he was one of my favourite because he did exactly that. He obviously had such a solid set, but he would always open about something about Belfast. I can't remember any of the jokes but whether it was like how you get a different burrito in every single part of Botanic, and he would just instantly, the audience loved him and warmed to him because they were like, we appreciate this. You're making us laugh about us. Everyone loves to laugh about themselves. Don't really care about anyone else. I did a gig with Paddy McDonnell last week down at the Limelight, and it was wild. It was brilliant. Like, I mean, the energy at the Northern Irish comedy gigs are so different because I'm starting to do more here now, and I'm thinking this is a weird thing. And I just did a joke about living in East Belfast. Pretty sure that's what your job is.
No. Like I said to the crowd at the gig, I said, "Oh, I'm living out in East Belfast, blah blah blah." I said, "I'm living in a British area," and they were all like, "Oh, where's he going with this? He's from Cork. Where's he going with this?" I said, "Oh, my neighbours are amazing. They always come up and speak to me. They're always coming up to me like going, well, Andrew, when are you moving back to the south?" Like all that kind of stuff. Just little jokes like that, right? But they get it, and I think they appreciate it more when you're making stuff about their area, obviously, which is quite common.
Like that's what the whole thing about comedy is, isn't it? It's like, it's funny because it's true. So I feel like, was it Oscar Wilde said, if you're going to tell them the truth, make them laugh or they'll kill you. And it is that sense of, being able to make someone laugh by trying to prove a point. You can give someone another perspective. You could do, like, Paddy is very popular within all the communities in Northern Ireland, and it's because you can just make them laugh. You don't need to be serious about stuff. And it's kind of, even if Chris and I are having an argument, like, we wouldn't necessarily argue that much. We just, if something really pisses me off about him, I make a joke about it, because it's one thing, it's quite rude if you're just like, you load the dishwasher in the wrong way.
You knocked the ball on against France in 2008 that cost us the Six Nations, you piece of shit.
Yeah, whereas if you just kind of make a bit of a joke about it, they realise they've messed up without anyone kind of feeling...
Do you ever... I actually believe if I was married to Chris Henry, I would wake up every morning and look at him in the eye and be like, why did you not tackle that guy against Italy in 2009? You missed a tackle there. What was all that about? I just follow him around the house with a stack. I'm going, you did 6 carries, you missed 3 tackles.
That's probably why
you came off injured again. Like... I would just because when I see your husband, I just look at him and all I can think about is...
not any of his achievements. Just, I'm sorry, but I can slag Chris off all I want.
I know, but I just look at him and I just think like, you missed a tackle against Argentina in the quarter-final of the World Cup of 2015. Look at us now. Where are we now? We've still not been in a semi-final. Anyway, how are the kids, Chris? Keeping them well?
Well, maybe that's why I married me, because I'm not really that interested in rugby. So
are you like a power couple? Would you call yourselves a power couple? Like the Malone Road power couple. Malone Road, BT,
We don't live anywhere near the Malone Road, and we're not a power couple. No, but no one's allowed to slag them off. Oh my gosh, that's how I get into fights and nights out. If anyone says that they think that they're a better number 7 than he ever was, I'm like, sorry, what?
Oh, but you hang out with a lot of rugby players and stuff, don't you? But it's just a bit of crack, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Chris was a great player. But the thing is, I'm jealous of him.
See, I'm not. That's why I can
That's your wife.
I think it's the opposite. He probably gets annoyed about how much I slag him about it and don't maybe appreciate just how great he was.
That must be mad, though. Because you've been together since you were teenagers, isn't he?
I was 21.
21. He's a bit older than you, isn't he? So... Yeah, but that just goes to show. And I remember Chris was telling me, actually, he was like, you went to Glasgow and you stayed together, didn't you?
No, well, I was at Glasgow when I met him.
Oh, you were at Glasgow when you met him,
Yeah. So I had maybe like 2 of my 2 years left in Glasgow. But yeah, no, but it was great because I just kind of, he was away a lot with rugby anyway, so I would just fly to wherever his games were.
Do you know what I'd love to do? I'd love to get him to do a stand-up gig, or you do it. I want to get comedy promoters to do a gig.
Why?
Because I just think it would be great for you to know what we fucking go through.
We know, we see it and we hear about it. Oh my God, do we hear about it? Like you said to me before about becoming an agent, I'm like, no, I've got 2 children and a husband. I am not looking after comedians.
I think you'd be a brilliant comedy agent.
Oh, I just couldn't.
Because you know the acts, you know you couldn't listen to comedians.
No,
they'll wreck your
they're
head.
babies. Yeah, they need way more looking after than children.
What is the thing that pisses you off about comedians most? But seriously, no, like you know the way, I like comedians, they're intelligent people, blah blah. But seriously, when you see, he's a comedian, I know what's going to fucking happen.
They need a lot of reassurance. And
do they? Say that again.
Exactly. No, but every comedian's different, yeah. But I just think, you need to look after them. They're babies.
I'm fascinated by how some comedians can't read fucking emails. Be here at this time at this venue. Feel free to check the traffic beforehand.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you were supposed to be here at 2 and you came in here at
but this is a bit. I've had a very bad day today now. Belfast International Airport is a good airport. I know I slagged it off earlier, but when there's big queues, it pisses you off. You know what
Belfast International Airport might have sponsored this podcast if you hadn't have given them such a hard time. Working in the north, I think.
Trust me, Belfast International will not be sponsoring this podcast because by the time they send over their merchandise for me to put up here, it'll probably be delayed.
With you.
With me, yeah. No, listen, Jade, thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.